Welcome to part 4 of our video presentation on chapter 1. This part is devoted to project success. I think up to this point we mentioned project success several times. We said something like, the ultimate goal of a project manager is to succeed with his or her project. We also said that a project manager needs to be knowledgeable in several important areas in order to be successful with a project. So what do we mean to be successful with a project? What do we mean by project success? There are several ways to define project success. One way to define project success is through its internal characteristics, in terms of the three constraints: scope, time, and cost goals. For example, a project can be considered successful if you meet the initial scope, time, and cost constraints. In other words, when you talk about scope, you deliver a project that accomplishes what it was supposed to accomplish. Let's say it delivers 10 new functional points to a particular software application. The time component means that the project was carried out within the initially agreed upon timeline. In other words, you are on time. You delivered the project main outcomes before the deadline. And cost goals means that the project was delivered within the budget. You agreed to deliver a particular software application or build a particular network for $100,000, and you delivered on that promise. It was built within that budget. So that's one way. Now, you probably understand that sometimes you can do what you agreed upon on paper. You can do it within a reasonable time frame. You can do it within the budget. However, what you did may still not satisfy the ultimate customer or sponsor of your project. Okay, let's say you build a software application that helps people, let's say, process customer complaints. You did it within a reasonable time. You spend the agreed upon amount, but at the end of the day, your customers, they don't like your product. Maybe it's not easy to use, right? It's very cumbersome. So that would be an issue, and your entire project can be considered a failure. So I think it's becoming more common to define project success in terms of the final result. Do customers like what you build? For example, if you think about the career of people of some famous people in the IT industry, like Steve Jobs, he was famous, or should I say infamous, for ignoring scope, time, and cost goal constraints. He kept saying customers, they don't really know what they need, so they don't know what the scope should be. I will determine what the scope is. He didn't care about the time. He didn't care about the cost. He wanted to deliver the best products possible, right? Products that would amaze people with their simplicity, with their ease of use, with their aesthetical elegance, and so forth, right? So he really wanted to satisfy customers. Now, of course, you cannot ignore those triple constraints, but it kind of makes sense, really. I mean, no matter how much you spend in terms of time, in terms of money, no matter how much you do, if customers don't like your product, then it doesn't matter how much you spend here, right? So it is an important dimension. Or sometimes project success is defined in terms of other specific factors, such as meeting some kind of main qualitative objective, let's say increasing customer loyalty or satisfaction, or making or saving a certain amount of money, or providing a good return on investment, or simply making somebody happy, right? So it can be something qualitative and quantitative, something that is very specific, but again, something that is outside those triple constraints. It's more like on the side of customers or sponsors. So what are the main success factors in project management? Project management success, information system success, is a big research area for the field of management, project management, management information systems. And research have identified a lot of factors, and most of those factors, they are somehow related to the following that you see here on this slide. Executive support is very important for ensuring project success. If you have a powerful executive, meaning high-level manager within an organization, and this manager supports your project, then you're more likely to succeed with it. If you don't have somebody important within the organization supporting your project, then you may run into issues that may never be resolved. And sometimes people don't understand that. They don't understand that they don't have any support within the organization. In fact, somebody powerful within the organization opposes their project. So if you ignore those things, lack of support, then most likely your project will fail. And overall, it will fail most likely without executive support. User involvement. You see, any kind of IT product, any kind of telecommunications product is built for a particular set of users. So no matter how much time or money you spend on your project, if you build something that your users cannot use, let's say they don't see it as being useful, or they don't see it as being easy to use, then your entire project becomes a failure. So get users involved from day one. Get them on board. Get them involved in starting the planning stage, right? Because at the end of the day, it's users who know what needs to be done for them personally, and they have the best. They're in the best position to to give you the requirements towards a particular product or service and so forth. So getting them involved is very important. Rely on their expertise, rely on their requirements. Experience is another important factor. This is something you can learn in a classroom, right? You become an experienced project manager by actually managing projects, not by reading about project management. So experience is very important. Clear business objectives, very important. Sometimes projects do not have clear business objectives. Nobody really knows what is expected, what needs to be accomplished at the end. So if you don't know what needs to be accomplished, how do you know whether you're successful or not? So that opens a whole kind of worms for criticism, meaning like you accomplished something, but it wasn't what the objective was. So although you accomplished something successfully, it's not the objective that people wanted. So they will say, well, you wasted all this time and money and so forth. Minimize scope, it's very important. Scope means the size of your project, what needs to be done. The smaller the scope, the smaller the size of your project, the more likely you are to succeed. If you increase the scope of the project, you're increasing your chances of failure exponentially. Some of the most successful project managers are the ones who can, who can defend their scope. Of course, sometimes you cannot say no to certain requests to extend or change the scope, but if you do that, then it will introduce a lot of complexity, a lot of mess in your project. So minimizing scope, defending scope from changes is very important. Also, using standard software and infrastructure and standard technologies in general is important. I think our society nowadays praises pioneers, innovators, and there is certain glory, there is certain praise that innovators deserve. However, you understand that if you're too innovative, if you're too much on the cutting edge of technology, then you may fail, because new technology still can be unreliable. You may not be sure how to use it. So it's always good to go with standard, old and true technologies and practices. Firm basic requirements, it's kind of related to minimize scope or protecting scope. So once requirements are specified, you need to stick to them, because if you keep changing the requirements, you will keep changing the project itself in the middle of the project, and this can create a lot of mess, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, and you're more likely to fail. Also, research shows that project managers who are successful meaning knowledgeable in and also disciplined when it comes to using a formal project management methodology. Anyone, let's say Scrum, Prince, or any kind of lean methodology. If they are very knowledgeable in that formal methodology and they're disciplined and consistent in using that methodology, they're more likely to be successful. Also, doing reliable estimates in relation to cost, in relation to time, because if you're not making reliable estimates, a number of things can go wrong. First of all, you may upset your stakeholders. They expect the product to be delivered within 1 month. It took you 1 year. Or they expect that they will need to give you $1 million. They ended up giving you $2 million. So you need to have reliable, good estimates in relation to the project. And some other smaller criteria, such as small milestones, trying to do one small thing at a time, as opposed to that big bang approach where you're trying to do everything at once. Proper planning, there is a saying that planning is useless sometimes, but it's also essential, meaning that your plans may not necessarily work out, but simply sitting down and reflecting on the things that need to be done and the things that are necessary and the things that can go wrong can do wonders for your overall success. Competent staff, very important principle. You need to have the right kind of people on your team. They need to be motivated. And ownership, meaning people need to feel that they own the project. This is their project. They are doing it for their own success, for their own benefit. So all those things are important for ensuring project management success as well. So that concludes part 4 of our video presentation, chapter 1. Thank you for listening.